So there's a really cheesy John Green quote, and I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but whatever, I like it and I'm gonna use it. It's a great metaphor. John Green talks about falling in love and the fault in our stars, and he says it happens slowly and then all at once. And for me, that's really how chronic fatigue syndrome was. I had all these symptoms that were kind of slowly adding up that I was ignoring. I was trying to just live my life normally as if I was healthy and go to the gym and do all this stuff. And then out of nowhere, I just crashed so bad that I couldn't ignore it anymore. Months went by and I didn't get better. I got to a point where I didn't want to shower. Like, shaving was hard, showering was hard. I remember chewing became difficult, and I was housebound for months and eventually even like bedbound for at least a month, just not really wanting to go down the stairs, not really wanting to eat. And things had just gotten so bad. I knew I wasn't depressed. Like, that wasn't really a question in my mind. I had all these things I wanted to do. I wanted to make music. I had freelance work I needed to get done. I had YouTube videos. Like, I had so much life I wanted to live. But it just felt like all of my symptoms sounded like what people who suffer from depression deal with. And I can understand, like, there's a long history of misdiagnosis in chronic fatigue syndrome. A lot of people in the past were diagnosed wrongly with these conditions like depression. And I think really it's a society thing. We kind of developed this, oh, it's not just in my head mentality, like it's physical. And I totally agree with that, but I do want to kind of throw a wrench into that mindset and that way of thinking. So yes, it is totally biological. It's not in your head, but it's not to invalidate people who suffer from depression and suffer from these mental conditions. I don't really understand why there is such a stigma around these mental health conditions, because your brain is in charge of everything. It perceives the entire world around you. Everything you see and hear and the way you perceive it is your brain. It's in charge of your immune system, your autonomic nervous system. It really controls everything. So if there's a malfunction in your brain, it affects your whole body and it becomes biological. And when I think about someone suffering from depression, they experience a lot of the same symptoms that I experience. Your energy goes so low to the point where a healthy person doesn't really understand it. Like, if you're healthy and you're just going about your day-to-day life, it's really hard to imagine what it actually feels like to be that sick. We really don't know. We really don't understand how our body feels. I really just don't think we should look at things like it's just in my head or it's biological. It's a real condition or it's psychiatric. They're really connected intimately. When I think about when I was at my worst, it was when I was taking the most amount of pills, watching the most YouTube videos, believing that this was a long-term condition, believing that I didn't have hope, wondering if this was going to be the rest of my life, feeling like I can't shave, I don't know if I'll be able to shower, I don't know if I'll be able to get out of bed today. If I got out of bed and showered, that was like a win. And I really questioned if that was going to be the rest of my life. Getting to that point was a combination of the viruses and my mentality. Sure, I didn't have depression. Depression isn't what triggered all of these things, but as my body became worse and worse and worse, my mind became worse and worse, and I started believing these things about myself that made my body feel even worse, and it just becomes this negative feedback loop. So I think it's really important to call that out. And when I think about a lot of cases, whether it's cancer or military survivors, combat survivors who become disabled, or people dealing with chronic illnesses like Crohn's disease, their life is totally changed. Something changes physically within us, but then we don't really understand how much our emotions are impacted and how much our brain is impacted as well. If you get a doctor diagnosis and he says you have cancer and you have it the rest of your life, your brain is going to start acting differently. The things you think about, the way you perceive the world is going to be different now. If anyone can become depressed, and if the symptoms of depression are biological symptoms, then it makes sense that people who experience these traumas, like these life-changing tragedies of disease or physical traumas, they're prone to depression and the physical effects that come with that. And even if it's not depression, they could suffer from a lot of the same symptoms. When time goes on and you don't get better and you've tried everything, you just stress yourself out. And kind of the point I'm trying to make is when you reach these levels of desperation, how could you possibly heal? How could you possibly heal from whatever you're dealing with when your mind and your body are so stressed out? You know, you're panicked. The point that I'm trying to make isn't just think positively, especially just on a conscious level and we're faking it. I don't think the solution is to just think positive thoughts, but how do we integrate joy and bliss on a subconscious level? How do we get rid of our external world and the things we're suffering from, these physical conditions? How do we kind of get away from all that and become happy or just feel bliss for a little bit or ignore these things? The more joy you bring into your life and the less stress you have, the more your body can do things like heal and digest. So that really is kind of the whole point of this video, is no matter where you're at, the most important thing you can do is have hope. If you don't have hope for your life, nothing could ever change. So this isn't to say that everything is just all in your head and roses and sunshine and everything will be better. For me, it took the right diagnosis, the right medication, the right routine, the right pacing, and the right mindset to slowly, over time, get better. No matter what you're dealing with externally, try your best to just go with the flow and take every day as it is. One breath, one thought, one meditation at a time. Know that every single day is a new one. And once you start incorporating all this joy and growth in your life, the healing can become just as exponential as the sickness, slowly and then all at once. Thank you. Remmel's out.